Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hooray! Very good, very good. I have been given the great privilege, and it is a great privilege, to be called the honorary patron of the Bikeability Trust. And I wasn't quite sure when Emily offered me this title exactly what it meant. I wasn't quite sure whether patrons go around patronizing people and patting them on the head or receive nosegays from small girls and things of that kind. But actually, it's brilliant. It's really fantastic. And it's such an honor to be back in with Bikeability. It's wonderful. And I just think it's terrific. I have been involved in Bikeability for a long time. In fact, I was there when Bikeability was first named, the very day that it was named. And Steve Garadis and I were there with a bit of research about what the names should be. And we weren't sure. We'd done a bit of research, and when the research came back, we hated all the names. So there we were on a Tuesday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, and this is a piece of special news. Bikeability was invented on the steps of Ealing Town Hall in 2005, and that's where it all started. And we had, I think, a very clear idea as we started Cycling England, that we wanted to do two things. First of all, we really wanted to demonstrate to generations of skeptical government that if you invested in cycling at the sorts of levels that other European countries were investing in, you would actually see cycling grow. And you would have to do it consistently. We met somebody from the Netherlands who said to us, if I could give you a piece of advice, it's start a long time ago and keep going. And that was exactly how we felt about it at the time. And we thought, we really have got to show, and we made a case to create Cycling England with whatever money the government would give us. And they gave us £5 million. And we were able to get 6 cycling demonstration towns started in 2005. The other thing we said was, if children don't learn to ride a bike, there will be no future for cycling at all. And looking at the statistics, you could see that in every European country, the number of children who rode bikes was higher than the number of adults. Hardly surprising, because as you grow up, there are other distractions, and you want a motorbike, and you want a friend, and you want a car, and you want a family, and all sorts of things. In the UK, it was the reverse. There were fewer children cycling than there were adults. And that was just really terrifying as a prospect. For if there were few to start with, how few will there be when they are 20 or 25? And so right at the very beginning, we said, what we need is a program that replaces what Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher, took away, which was originally called cycling proficiency. And for 20 years, it's very easy to stop things, actually. For 20 years, central government withdrew funding, and so cycle training just gradually declined. And we said, this really has got to be turned around. And to do that, of course, all of the standards and all of the background had disappeared too. And we managed to get, against a lot of skeptical comment, we got 23 organizations who were interested in safety and in standards, like ROSPA, like the local authorities, Road Safety Officers Association. We got 23 of them to sit down and design new national standards. And we got the Secretary of State to sign them off and say, this is what cycle training is all about. However, we learnt a lesson that you will all know quite well, which is it's all very well having ideas, but if you can't find a champion and you can't find the political will, nothing happens. And it wasn't until the end of 2006 when there was a new Secretary of State, Douglas Alexander, who came across this proposal and said, I like it. He liked it so much, he gave it £5 million as well. And so Bikeability was born. For those of you who live fairly locally, you'll be proud to know that it was actually started in Leicester. And we were on BBC News from a radio car in Leicester with Andy Salkeld, who is there still. And that's where it all started. And it went from strength to strength until, of course, there's a change of government. And what did they do? They said, oh, I think you're a quango. Oh, we had no idea we were a quango. And so we were abolished. And that was that. But there was one champion in the Department of Transport, who I'm now pleased to say is the most senior director. And I was talking to her the other day, and she said, I think the best thing I ever did was to save Bikeability from the bonfire of Cycling England. And so we kept that money, and we kept it going. Why is it so important? You know, you've been around a long time. Somebody said to me, well, why do you bother? Why is it so important? I was looking at the Bikeability website, and I saw the text there, and I thought, exactly right. That's exactly what we talked about all those years ago. We talked about learning to ride a bike is a skill for life. Once learnt, never forgotten. Life skill, that was the first thing that we kept on and on about to government. And the second thing we said was, it's a rite of passage. And there are lots of things that we celebrate as a mark from one thing to another. So we mark when a child is born. We mark when we get married. We mark when we're 18 or 21. We mark when we retire. All of those are rites of passage, moving from one thing to another. And Bikeability is that. Bikeability is a rite of passage from dependence, where do I go, hold somebody's hand, cross the road now, sit in the back, to independence. And there's a great little lad who will live with me forever, who when I asked him, I said, do you know the safest way to school? He said, well, yeah, I do. And of course, I told my mum that's the best way to go, because that's what I've been told. But actually, my best friend Mark lives the other direction, so we go there first and pick Mark up, and then we cycle around. And I thought, yes, that's exactly right. That's the shift from dependence to independence. And Bikeability is a brilliant, managed way of teaching children and young people how to learn to become independent. And we said at the beginning, and we've said it to, I think, about 13 ministers now, every child should have that chance. Every single child should have that chance. Honestly, we went through a terrible time with Secretary of State who, in his first announcement as Secretary of State, said, I'm delighted to tell you that the war on the motorist is over. So you can see we didn't get much traction there. And he was followed by Grayling, who opened the door of his ministerial car outside the House of Commons and wiped out a cyclist. I mean, you have to have a champion, you have to have the political will. And that's really something that you just have to go on and on about. So when people ask me, why are you still involved? I think there are three things. First of all, we haven't yet got even the funding for every child. And we're promised it for 2024. And there's a good chance that we'll get it. But I'm certainly not giving up with unfinished business. The second thing is that, and here's another fact that you can check, cycling ought to be on the school curriculum. And everybody always makes the comparison with swimming. It really ought. The trouble is, of course, lots and lots of people say everything should, curling should be on the school curriculum, for God's sake, shouldn't it? No question. But that proposal was first made actually by the Cyclists Touring Club in 1932, 90 years ago. So that's another good reason for not giving up, really. And the other thing, I think, the third thing, is that although we talk a lot, and you give your lives in large measure to teaching children and encouraging them to cycle to school, actually, it's much, much bigger than that. It's important, of course it's important, but it's much bigger. And let me just, if I may, give you a word picture. For me, cycling is like a great tree. And at the top, there are lots of branches. And those branches are all the different things you can do through life on a bicycle. You can be fantastically sporty. Fascinating to see that Jason Kenny, fantastically sporty, says, I think I'll go to a different branch. I think I'll train people. You can be somebody who is a real commuter and thinks it's really useful and it saves me a lot of money. You can be a tourist. You can do the sort of Alison Hill everyday thing of going from John O'Groats to Land's End or vice versa on your bicycle. Good luck, Alison. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You can have fun on a bike. You can be a family on a bike. Different stages of your life, your bicycle takes you to different branches of cycling. So there we have these great branches. And what the branches actually fix to? They fix to the trunk. And what's the trunk? The trunk's learning to ride the bicycle in the first place. You can't get to the branches if you don't actually get up the trunk. And so everybody who wants to be in this lovely tree has to learn the bikeability way to get up the trunk. And that tree has roots. And those roots are you. You are the roots of all of this. You are the people who nurture the tree. You are the people who actually bring that tree to life and bring children to all of the joy and all the pleasure they can have for the rest of their life. You're not really surprised I haven't given up yet, are you? I mean, it's just fantastic. It really is fantastic. Things are looking good. Things are looking terrific. And the Bikeability Trust is looking terrific. It's got a great team. It's got great momentum. It's got a new tone. It's got a new ambition. And just looking at the figures, you think, we have actually. It's a struggle. You've all struggled. It's a struggle. We've come a long way. We started with £5 million. I'm going to spoil the Secretary of State's video by telling you that she's going to announce that we've got £20 million. That's not enough, because that still won't train every child. We've got now a total of 3.686251, according to Emily, people who have been trained in bikeability. Nearly 3.7 million. And we started with nobody. We've now got 60% of children, thanks to you, who are getting their bikeability training. And we've got something like 44 projects committed to widening that participation, which we're going to hear a lot about this morning. So when people say to me, blimey, you've been around a long time, and say, fantastic, I have, I love it. Thank you very much indeed.
thank you for inviting me to speak today, and I'm so sorry I can't be there in person. I'm really excited to have been given the active travel brief, and let me use this opportunity to formally request my Bikeability badge. It quite literally will be a badge of honour, because we all remember when we learned to cycle. I remember when my 4 daughters learned. That sense of accomplishment, but also freedom, is unique. Suddenly, as a child, it can seem like those 2 wheels can take you anywhere. But cycling doesn't just help the cyclist, it helps us all. In fact, I believe encouraging active travel is the best return on government investment. It makes us healthier and happier. It saves our NHS billions of pounds, and it reduces our emissions and increases air quality. And the reasons not to travel more actively are shrinking. Incredibly, 1/4 of all car journeys are under 2 miles, and there lies the opportunity. So let no one tell you that it's not possible to make shorter journeys more active, because the stats are on our side. During the pandemic, when our economy was largely at a standstill, only one mode of transport flourished. Cycling rates increased by 46% in a single year, and 1 million more people started walking for leisure. We want this trend to continue. And that is where Bikeability comes in. You have already trained 3 million children since 2007, giving them the skills, knowledge and confidence to cycle safely on our roads. And throughout the huge disruption of the past 2 years, with school closures, cancelled training places and changing public health rules, you still managed to deliver an impressive 140,000 places during 2020 and 2021. So let me take this opportunity to thank all the local authorities, the schools, the training providers and cycle instructors for continuing to inspire hundreds of thousands of children and their families. And because of your success, I'm delighted to announce today that we're providing a record £20 million for Bikeability next year. This funding, however, comes with expectation. Though it's an expectation that we all share, because our aim is for every child or adult that wants cycle training to get it. And when we say every child, we really mean it. We know that Bikeability is a great product, but there are still parts of the country where children don't get the opportunity to take part. We need more places and more schools where Bikeability is available. And to ensure that an increase in coverage does not mean a decrease in training quality, we also need your help to understand where we're getting most bang for our buck. Programmes across the UK need to be tailored to their local areas while staying consistent with the Bikeability name. Because cycling where I live in Cumbria is very different to cycling in London or Manchester. That means monitoring and evaluating what works and what doesn't. So if you have an idea to increase engagement, I urge you to pilot it and measure it. I'm pleased to see Bikeability moving in the right direction. The Widening Participation Fund is supporting 44 pilot projects to remove the barriers that prevent underrepresented groups from getting on a bike. And I'm encouraged to see your good work with children and special educational needs and disabilities children. The Bikeability Trust Innovation has allocated £300,000 across 18 projects to buy adapted bikes for children with mobility issues, as well as developing new training for instructors to support those with additional needs. These projects will help ensure that all future programmes are truly inclusive. Finally, let me zoom out to the bigger picture. Bikeability is just one part of our broader vision for half of all journeys in towns and cities to be cycled or walked by 2030. And we're allocated an unprecedented £2 billion over 5 years to deliver that ambition. We've already provided over £300 million to make our streets safer and more confident for active travellers, including widened pavements, safer junctions and hundreds of miles of cycle lanes. We will set out more details in our investment plans later this spring as part of the next cycling and walking investment strategy. And recently, we launched Active Travel England, an executive agency of DFT tasked with managing government funding and driving up the quality of cycling and walking routes and other measures to boost active travel. All of which leads me to the following conclusion. I don't think we will have a better opportunity to encourage our children to cycle. Public health restrictions create a cycle craze across the country. We've set ambitious targets to create millions more cycle journeys, and we're investing record amounts in fantastic programs such as Bikeability. Any child that wants to cycle should be able to. It's a life skill that will not only boost their health, but that of others, and indeed the planet's too. So let's make it happen. Let's get more of our young stars behind the handlebars. Thank you.
I've really no idea who wrote the last line for her. That was really unbelievable. It is very good news. It is very good news because it's taken 10 years to get started again after the abolition of Cycling England. And this time, they're going to do it properly. We had a very small team. They were very competent. They're talking about having a team of 100 people to address the question of cycle infrastructure through the country at a high level. Really, really important. And the other good thing about all of this is that Bikeability is actually in the gear change document. This was written in the middle of 2020. It has the government's signature on it. It has clear commitments, and it has a clear commitment for the first time, as the Minister has said, to getting every child the opportunity to learn to cycle. And we're going to talk about some of those opportunities this morning. But before we do, why don't we give just a fantastic welcome, a really fantastic welcome to the Chief Executive, no less, Emily Cherry. Brilliant, here you are.
Oh my goodness me, I am totally overwhelmed by being up here today with all of you wonderful people. It's such a privilege to be able to be in this job and to be with so many people who care so passionately about children and cycling. It's just the most amazing and special organisation to be part of. So thank you, Philip, for the welcome. Thank you for all of you for getting here safely. You all know the trust and the vision and the mission that we've been set out over the next 5 years through the board, and it's a fantastic mission to have. You know, this absolutely getting every child with that confidence and that cycling skill for life is something that we all passionately believe in. You all know we've set ourselves some really fantastic targets. We've baked inclusivity, innovation, being child-focused, being efficient, being influential, and collaborating. We love partnership, and it is so good to see so many of our partners here today as well to be able to work with us. So the trust is absolutely on this mission to bring about this gear change promise, and I'm just so delighted to have all of you in the room because this is Team Bikeability in action, and I'm just so delighted to be here today. Now, you know all of this already. The Minister has talked about it. Philip's talked about it. 3.6 million children are amazing instructors. So many of you in the room actively delivering. Our fantastic training providers out there day in, day out, rain or shine, making sure that children get their training. And all of our grant recipients, our SGOs and our local authorities working with us. This is Team Bikeability, and it's just a privilege to be part of it. But we have a huge mission to grow, and that's why it's so wonderful that the Minister has agreed 20 million for this next financial year, and then we have got a target and absolute influencing opportunity with Active Travel England to help that to grow. 20 million is record funding. Let's celebrate that. It is not funding for every child. We are not there yet, and we have a job to do together to getting that over the line. So what we're doing absolutely at the Trust, and I'm going quick because I know we're running out of time, and quite frankly, I want to give the stage to the really important people here today who are here to be able to do some of this. And we are launching our business plan for the next year. So we've set ourselves these overall objectives that we will bring about with you. You know, this wonderful team of people, of staff, trustees, of our honorary patron, and our DFT colleagues, we will work tirelessly over the next 12 months to make sure that we can bring these objectives about in some key activities. And I particularly want to pay a testament to Amina, who's in the room at the back. Amina will give a cheery smile to everyone as they go past, so sat there at the back there. You know, our DFT colleagues work day in, day out. It is not easy to be in government right now. And I have worked with so many government departments over the years. I've very rarely met civil servants who really care so much about the policy issue. And I have to say, Amina, Rupert and Paula, who we work with on a day-to-day basis, really care about bikeability. And they are absolutely alongside us, helping to fight for the right resourcing and the right support. So we owe our business plan and our objectives and the activities that we will do to their work as well. And I just wanted to particularly pay testament to our DFT colleagues. So some of the activities that I'm really excited that we're able to get underway this year, you know, we've set innovation and inclusion as the theme of this year's conference. The SEND training that we will be rolling out across the next year for all instructors, and that's something that we're working on with partners, but we will make that available to every instructor. That for me is a huge, exciting opportunity to make sure that every instructor has the confidence to train children with SEND. I'm also really excited to kind of exclusively announce, but you have to wait for the official comms, that the department has brilliantly agreed that we will look at some additional top-up funding for SEND Bikeability. At the moment, you know, you get one grant per head. That does not stretch to being able to provide inclusive sessions where you need additional staffing, adapted cycles. So we will be able to launch some top-up funding. Details TBC, and they'll be coming out to you, but that's something that the department has really spearheaded, and I'm just absolutely delighted that the learning and the work that we've been able to do has been able to get that out as well. I'm also really passionate about Instructor Journey. Benjamin has done a phenomenal job with lots of people around the room who's helped on the RPL route. We'll be doing lots more work on the initial level 2 qualification, but we really passionately support our instructors. So we will be rolling out a UK coaching membership for 12 months that we're paying for. So every instructor who's active on the books will get access to UK coaching and the CPD and the support that comes through that. We really believe in instructors and the support to instructors. And I can't quite see Kieran, but I'm slightly terrified, but I'm doing my instructor training in April. Slightly terrified. He tells me I'll be fine. I will be fine, won't I, Kieran? Without spoken. But, you know, really passionately believe in understanding what the instructor journey is so that, you know, I can be your even more powerful advocate for the work. You know, we've got so much more comms work that we need to do. You know, we've got Caroline and Molly and Jess and Adam, who's on literally his first day with the Trust, coming into the team, which is just fantastic. You know, we need to make Bikeability famous. Philip constantly tells me this, and it is absolutely one of the targets that we do, you know, through media, through social media. We've got to leverage the power of partnerships to make sure that people stop talking about cycling proficiency and start talking about Bikeability. And we've got some wonderful PR moments coming up in the next 12 months, not least because we've been chosen, and it was chosen, to be one of the only organisations in the official Queen's Jubilee pageant commemorative album. There's only one album coming out for the Queen's Jubilee. There's only 70 organisations and individuals featuring in that, and Bikeability is one of them. What a great opportunity to get across the UK how fantastic we are. And I'm delighted that I'm taking an instructor to the pageant to watch on the Mall as well. There was a great competition and it was a delight to be able to do that. So we will not rest until Bikeability is absolutely famous. But we also want to do lots more work with parents and carers. You know, we know already we're working more closely with Department for Education. We've now got Bikeability listed in the Climate Change and Sustainability Strategy for the Department for Education. great steps towards it being on the curriculum, but we've got to do more work with parents and carers. So that's where we will be investing from an innovation perspective in a whole new parent-carer hub that takes our parent carers along a cycling journey with their children after training as well. And we'll be able to say a little bit more about that this afternoon. But, certainly one of the things that you heard from the Minister this morning is that monitoring, evaluation and research is something that we are absolutely committed to. Not least because we need to have everything in our arsenal for making sure we never give an excuse to government to defund bikeability. That means evidence. That means understanding the impact of the day-to-day work that we do. It's fantastic to talk about 3.6 million children trained. That's an amazing achievement, something never to be underestimated. But I want to talk about 3.6 million children who've then gone on to, or the impact is. And that's what we will need to launch and develop with Department for Transport, is a new monitoring and evaluation framework for all of our bikeability, so that we've got that crucial evidence to make sure they are absolutely never got the excuse to not fund bikeability, because we can see the impact that makes wider. So there's a huge amount of work that we need to do, and it is a team approach. I think the best thing that you can do as a leader is surround yourself with the brightest and the best. I feel that we have surrounded ourselves with the brightest and the best. So our patron, our board, our fantastic staff team at Bikeability Centre, the HQ, the virtual HQ, are absolutely the most talented, phenomenal, caring, supportive group of colleagues I've ever had the privilege to work amongst. And I couldn't be prouder of all of the work. But I can tell you every day in the office, all of the conversations are about how we can support you more. It's absolutely about us being the centre to fight for the right resources, to be able to create the right conditions so that bikeability flourishes in the way. And there's not a day goes by when we are not talking about what's the impact to instructors, what's the impact to training providers, how do we support our grant recipients a little bit more. That's what we are here to do. But that's not a one-way conversation. That's a two-way conversation. That's us coming out to you to ask you what you need. That's you coming to us to tell us what you need. And that means the good, the bad, the more challenging. We're definitely up for the challenging and the supportive conversations. But this is absolutely seeing a team approach. And I couldn't be prouder that we have this opportunity to really do this together. Every child and every adult is a great policy objective to have on the books. But we can't do this unless we all do it together. So thank you for everything that you do to help bikeability happen. So the last couple of bits that I definitely wanted to talk about is you heard the Minister talk about expectations and coverage. These are important things, and we are becoming much more a data-driven organisation, so evidence and data are super important things to me. So we've got a new tool, which we're not releasing to the public. This is an audit tool for the department, for us, and crucially for you as training providers and grant recipients. So we have mapped on a postcode level where delivery has been taking place on a 4-year basis. We can do that on political constituency level. We can do that on postcode level. And it shows where coverage is happening, and it shows where we're not currently getting to. This will be a great data tool for you for workforce planning. It will be a great data tool to have conversations with schools and areas that are not currently taking up bikeability, and we'll produce some further comms about it as well. But I'm really delighted that we've got this tool so that we can help you to see where else you need to get to. So that's a great tool that we'll be launching and sending out to you as well. So I hope over this next day, these next few hours, you're going to have some fantastic conversations, a chance to catch up with colleagues you haven't seen for a while, a chance to talk to people that you haven't met. Please invite the trust staff out to come and see delivery. There's nothing more we all love than getting out and about and seeing what you're doing. But I'm just really, really grateful for everything that you do, and what a great day to really focus on the next phase of bikeability, which is absolutely inclusion and innovation. And I'm just so delighted to spend time with you today. So thank you very much.